Hi. Now I'm back reading chapter 2 of Musical Instruments, City of Bones, book 1. Alright, I'm gonna stop at chapter 3 or 30 minutes, which I'm first. So, because I read really slow. Set a timer for 30 minutes.
Okay, your timer is set for 30 minutes.
Okay. The Dark Prince sat astride his black steed, his sable cape, his sable cape flowing behind him. A gold circlet bound his blond locks. His handsome face was cold with the rage of battle, and his alarm looked like an eggplant. Clary muttered to herself in expression. The drawing just wasn't working. With a sigh, she tore yet another sheet from her sketchbook, crumbled it up, and tossed it against the orange wall of her bedroom. Already, the littered with discarded balls of paper, a sure sign that her creative juices weren't flowing the way she'd hoped. She wished for the thousandth time that she could be a bit more like her mother. Everything Jocelyn drew, painted, or sketched was beautiful and seemingly effortless. Clary pulled her headphones out, cutting off stepping razor in mid song, and rubbed her aching temples. I thought temple was head and temples. Okay. Um, it was only then she became aware that the loud, piercing sound of a ringing telephone was echoing through the apartment. Tossing the sketchbook onto the bed, she jumped to her feet and ran into the living room, where the retro red phone sat on a table near the front door. Is this Clarissa Frey? The voice on the other end of the phone sounded familiar, though not immediately identifiable. Claire twirled the phone cord nervously around her fingers. Yes. Hi, I'm one of the knife carrying hooligans you met last night in Pandemonium. I'm afraid I made a bad impression and was hoping you'd give me a chance to make it up to Simon. Clary held the phone away from her ear as she cracked up laughing. That is so not funny. Sure it is. You just don't see the humor. Jerk, Clary sighed, leaning up against the wall. You wouldn't be laughing if you'd been here when I got home last night. Wait, they live together? Hold on. Hi, I'm one of the knife carrying hooligans you met last night in the Pandemonium. I'm afraid I made a bad impression. I was hoping you'd give me a chance to make it up to Simon. Clary held the phone away from her ear as she cracked up laughing. That is so not funny. Sure it is. You just don't see the humor. Jerk, Clary sighed, leaning up against the wall. You wouldn't be laughing if you'd been here when I got home last night. Why not? My mom wasn't happy that we were late. She freaked out. It was messy. What? It's not our fault there was traffic. Simon protested. He was the youngest of three children and had a honed sense of familia injustice. Familia and justice. Yeah, well, she doesn't see it that way. I disappointed her. I let her down. I made her worry. Blah blah blah. I'm the bane of her existence, Clary said, mimicking her mother's precise phrasing with only a slight twinge of guilt. So are you grounded? Simon asked a little too loudly. Clary would hear a low rumble of voices behind him. Clary Clary could hear a low rumble of voices behind him, people talking over each other. I don't know yet, she said. My mom went out this morning with Luke and they're not back yet. Where are you? Anyway, Eric's? Yeah. We just finished up practice. A cymbal clashed behind Simon. Clary winced. Eric's doing a poetry reading over at Java Jones tonight. Simon went on, naming a coffee shop around the corner from Clary's that sometimes had live music at night. The whole band's going to go to show their support. Want to come? Yeah, all right, Clary paused, tugging on the phone cord anxiously. Wait, no, shut up, guys, will you? Simon yelled, the faintness of his voice making Clary suspicious that he was holding the phone away from his mouth. He was back a Oh, that's a different alarm. He was back a second later, sounding troubled. Was that a yes or a no? I don't know, Clary bit her lip. My mom's still mad at me about last night. I'm not sure I want to piss her off by asking for any favors. If I'm going to get in trouble, I don't want it to be on account of Eric's lousy poetry. Come on, it's not so bad, Simon said. Eric was his next door neighbor, and the two had known each other. I'm sorry. And the two had known each other most of their lives. They weren't close the way Simon and Clary were, but they had formed a rock band together at the start of sophomore year, along with Eric's friends Matt and Kirk. They practiced together faithfully in Eric's parents' garage every week. Every week. Besides, it's not a favor, Simon asked. It's a poetry slam around the block from your house. It's not like I'm inviting you to some orgy in Hoboken. Your mom can come along if she wants. Orgy in Hoboken? Clary heard someone probably orgy in Hoboken. Clary heard someone probably Eric yell. Another cymbal crashed. She imagined her mother listening to Eric read his poetry, and she shuddered inwardly. I don't know if all of you show up here. I think she'll freak. Then I'll come home. I'll come alone. I'll pick you up, and we can walk over there together. Meet the rest of them there. Your mom won't mind. She loves me. Clary had to laugh. Sigh of her questionable taste, if you ask me. Nobody did. Sign of her questionable taste, if you ask me. Nobody did. Simon clicked off. Uh, amid shouts from his bandmates. Clary hung up the phone and glanced around the living room. Evidence of her mother's artistic tendencies was everywhere, from the handmade velvet throw pillow piles on the dark red sofa to the walls hung with Jocelyn's paintings, carefully framed, landscapes mostly. The winding streets of downtown Manhattan lit with golden lights. Scenes of Prospect Park in winter. The gray pond edge with lace like film of white ice. On the mantel over the fireplace was a framed photo of Clary's father, a thoughtful looking fair man in military dress. In military dress, his eyes bore the telltale trace of laugh lines at the corners. He'd been a decorated soldier serving overseas. Jocelyn had some of his medals in a small box by her bed. Not that the medals had done anyone any good when Jonathan Clerk had crashed his car into a tree just outside Albany and died before his daughter was even born. Jocelyn had gone back to using her maiden name after he died. She never talked about Clary's father, but she kept the box engraved with her initials JC next to her bed, along with the medal where one or two photos, a wedding ring, a wedding ring, and a single lock of blonde hair. Sometimes Jocelyn took the box out and opened it and held the lock of hair very gently in her hands before putting it back and carefully locking the box again. The sound of the keys turned in the front door rose Clary out of her reverie. Hastily, she threw herself down on the couch and tried to look as if she were uh, immersed immersed in one of the paperbacks her mother had left stacked on the end table. Jocelyn recognized reading as a sacred pastime and usually wouldn't interrupt Clary in the middle of a book, even to yell at her. The door opened with a thumb. It was Luke, his arm full of what looked like big square pieces of pasteboard. When he sat them down, Clary saw that they were cardboard boxes folded flat. He straightened up and turned to her with a smile. Hey, Luke, she said. He'd asked her to stop calling him Uncle Luke about a year ago, claiming that it made him feel old, and anyway reminded him of Uncle Tom's cabin. Besides, he reminded her gently he wasn't really her uncle, just a close friend of her mother's who'd known her all her life. Where's Mom? Parking the truck, he said, straightening his lanky frame with a groan. He was dressed in his usual uniform, old jeans, a flannel shirt, and a bent pair of gold rimmed spectacles that sat a suit a screw a screw on the bridge of his nose. Remind me again why this building has no service elevator. Because it's old and has character, Clary said immediately. Luke grinned. What are the boxes for? She asked. His grin vanished. Her mom wanted to pack some things, he said, avoiding her gaze. What things? Clary asked. He gave an airy wave. Extra stuff lying around the house, getting in the way. She never throws anything out. So what are you up to? Studying? He plucked the book out of her hand and read it out loud. The world seemed teams with those motley being whom a more sober philosophy had discarded. Fairies and goblins, ghosts and demons still hovered about. He lowered the book and looked at her over his glasses. Is this for school? The golden bow? A bow? No, school's not for a few weeks. Clary took the book back from him. It's my mom's. I had a feeling. She dropped it back on the table. Luke. Uh-huh. The book already forgotten. He was rummaging in the toolkit next to the hearth. Ah, here it is. He pulled out an orange plastic tape gun and glazed at it with deep satisfaction. What would you do if you saw something nobody else could see? The tape gun fell out of Luke's hand and hit the tile hearth. He knelt to pick it up, not looking at her. You mean if I were the only witness to a crime, that sort of thing? No, I mean if there were other people around, but you were the only one who could see them, as if it were invisible to everybody but you. He hesitated, still kneeling. The dented tape gun gripped in his hand. I know it sounds crazy, Clary ventured nervously, but he turned around, his eyes very blue behind the glasses, rested on her with a look of firm affection. Clary, you're an artist like your mother. That means you see the world in ways that other people don't. It's your gift to see the beauty and the horror in ordinary things. It doesn't make you crazy, just different. There's nothing wrong with being different. Clary pulled her leg up and rested her chin on her knees. In her mind's eye, she saw the storage room, Isabel's gold whip, the blue-haired boy convulsing in his death spasms, and Jace's 20 eyes, beauty and horror. She said, if my dad had lived, do you think he have been an artist too? Luke looked taken aback. Before he could answer her, the door swung open and Clary's mother stalked into the room, her boot her boot heels clacking on the polished wooden floor. She handed Luke a set of jingling car keys and turned to look at her daughter. Jocelyn Frey was a skinny. I said I don't know where I got skinny. Jocelyn Frey was a slim, compact woman. Her hair a few shades darker than Clary's and twice as long. At the moment, it was twisted up in a dark red knot, struck through with a graphite graphite. graphite pen to hold it in place. She wore paint splatter overalls over a lavender t-shirt and brown hiking boots whose soles were caked with oil paint. People always told Clary that she looked like her mother, but she couldn't see it herself. The only thing that was similar about them was their figure. They were both slender with small chest, chest, uh, and narrow hips. She knew she wasn't beautiful like her mother was. To be beautiful, you had to be willowy and tall. When you were as short as Clary was, just over 5 feet, you were cute. Not pretty or beautiful, but cute. Throw in carroty, carroty hair and a face full of freckles, and she was a Raggedy Ann to her mother's Barbie doll. Jocelyn even had a graceful way of walking that made people turn their heads to watch her go by. Clary, by contrast, was always tripping over her feet. The only time people turned to watch her go by was when she hurtled past them as she fell down the stairs. Thanks for bringing the boxes up, Clary's mom said to Luke and smiled at him. He didn't return the smile. Clary's stomach did an uneasy flip. Sorry. An uneasy flip. Clearly there was something going on. Sorry it took me so long to find a space. There must be 1,000,000 people at the park today. Mom? Clary interrupted. What are the boxes for? Jocelyn bit her lip. Luke flicked his eyes toward Clary, mutely urging Jocelyn forward. With a nervous twitch of her wrist, Jocelyn pushed a dangling lock of hair behind her ear and went to join her daughter on the couch. Up close, Clary could see how tired her mother looked. There were dark half moons under her eyes, and her lids were pearly with sleepiness. Is this about last night? Clary asked. No, her mother said quickly and then hesitated, maybe a little. You shouldn't have done what you did last night. You know better. And I already apologized. What is this about? If you're grounding me, get it over with. I'm not, said her mother. Grounding you. Her voice was as taut as a wire. She glanced at Luke, who shook his head. Just tell her, Jocelyn, he said. Could you not talk about me like I'm not here? Clary said. Ow, Clary said angrily. And what do you mean, tell me? Tell me what? Jocelyn exhaled and sighed. We're going on vacation. Luke's expression went blank, like a canva wiped clean of paint. Clary shook her head. That's what this is about? You're going on vacation? She sank back against the cushion. I don't get it. Why the big production? I don't think you understand. I meant we're all going on vacation. The three of us, you, me, and Luke, we're going to the farmhouse. Oh, Clary glanced at Luke, but he had his arms crossed over his chest and was staring out the window, his jaw pulled tight. Sorry, my brain's starting back to hurt again. They hurt bad. It's like that, like when it's weight on it. It's just like it feel like my braids are just like ripping my scalp. It's making me mad. Oh, where was I? Um, uh, but he had his arms crossed over his chest and was staring out the window, his jaw pulled tight. She wondered what was upsetting him. He loved the old farmhouse in upstate New York. He'd brought and restored it himself 10 years ago, and he went there whenever he could. For how long? For the rest of the summer, said Jocelyn. I brought the boxes in case you wanted to pack up any books, painting supplies for the rest of the summer. Clary sat upright with in, indignation. Indignation. I can't do that, Mom. I have plans. Simon and I were going to have a back to school party, and I've got a bunch of meetings with my art group and 10 more classes Tisek, I'm sorry about Tisek, but the other things can be canceled. Simon will understand, and so will your art group. Clary heard the implacability in her. I think that's implacability. Impl- implacability in her mom's tone, and realized she was serious. But I paid for those art classes I saved up all year. You promised. She whirled, turning to Luke. Tell her it isn't fair. Luke didn't look away from the window though. A muscle jumped in his cheek. She's your mother. It's her decision to make. I don't get it. Clary turned back to her mother. Why? I have to get away, Clary. Jocelyn said, the concerns of her mouth trembling. I need the peace, quiet. I need the peace, the quiet to paint, and money is tight right now. So sell some more of Dad's stocks, Clary said angrily. That's what you usually do, isn't it? Larry recoiled. That's hardly fair. Look, go if you want. I don't care. I'll stay here without you. I can work. I can get a job at Starbucks or something. Simon said they're always hiring. I'm old enough to take care of myself. No, the sharpness of in Jocelyn's voice made Clary jump. I'll pay you back for the art classes, Clary, but you are coming with us. It isn't optional. You're too young to stay here on your own. Something could happen. Like what? Like what? What could happen? Clary demanded. There was a crash. He turned in surprise to find Luke had knocked over one of the framed pictures, leaning against the wall, looking distinctly upset. He set it back when he straightened. His mouth was set in a grim line. I'm leaving. Jocelyn bit her lip. Wait! She hurried after him into the entryway, catching up just as he seized the doorknob. Twisting around on the sofa, Clary could just overhear her mother's urgent whisper. Bane, Jocelyn was saying, I've been calling him and calling him for the past 3 weeks. His voicemail says he's in Tanzania. What am I supposed to do? Jocelyn. Luke shook his head. You can't keep going to him forever. But Clary isn't Jonathan. Luke hissed. You've never been the same since it happened, but Clary isn't Jonathan. What does my father have to do with this? Clary thought, bewildered. I can't just keep her at home, not let her go out. She won't put up with it. Of course she won't. Luke sound really angry. She's not a pet. She's a teenager, almost an adult. If we were out of the city, talk to her, Jocelyn. Luke's voice was firm. I mean it. He reached for the door. Now the door flew open. Jocelyn gave a little scream. Jesus! Luke exclaimed. Actually, it's just me, said Simon. Although I've been told the resemblance is startling. He waved at Clary from the front doorway. You ready? Jocelyn took her hand away from her mouth. Simon, were you eavesdropping? Simon blinked. No, I just got here. He looked from Jocelyn's pale face to Luke's grim one. Is something wrong? Should I go? Don't bother, Luke said. I think we're done here. He pushed past Simon, thudding down the stairs at a rapid pace. Downstairs, the front door slammed shut. Simon hovered in the doorway, looking uncertain. I can come back later, he said. Really, it wouldn't be a problem. That might, Jocelyn began, but Clary was already on her feet. Forget it, Simon. We're leaving, she said, grabbing her messenger bag from a hook. Uh, from a hook near the door, she slung it over her shoulder, glaring at her mom. See you later, Mom. Jocelyn bit her lip. Clary, don't you think we should talk about this? We'll have plenty of time to talk while we're on vacation, Clary said, venomously. Venomously, I think that's venomously, and had the satisfaction of seeing her mom flinch. Don't wait up, she added, and grabbing Simon's arm, she half dragged him out the front door. He dug his heels in, looking apologetically over his shoulder at Clary's mom, who stood small and forlorn in the entryway, her hands knitted tightly together. Bye, Mrs. Frey. he yelled. Have a nice evening. Oh, shut up, Simon, Clary snapped and slammed the door behind them, cutting off her mother's reply. Jesus, woman, don't rip my arm off, Simon protested as Clary hauled him downstairs after her green Skechers slapping against the wooden stairs with every angry step. She glanced up, half expecting to see her mother glaring down from the landing, but the apartment door stayed shut. Sorry, Clary muttered, letting go of his wrist. She paused at the foot of the stairs. At the foot of the stairs, her messenger bag uh, banging against her hip. Clary's brownstone, like most in Park Slope, had once been the single residence of a wealthy family. Shades of his former grandeur were still evident in the curving staircase, the chipped marble entryway entryway floor, and the wide single pane skylight overhead. Now the home was split into separate apartments, and Clary and her mother shared the three-floor building with a downstairs tenant, an elderly woman who ran a psychic shop out of her apartment. She hardly ever came out of it, though customers visited were infrequent. A gold plaque fixed to the door proclaimed her to be a Madame Dorothy Dorothy Dor- Dorothy Cirrus and Prosopis. The thick sweet scent of incense spilled from the half open door into the foyer. Clary could hear a low murmur of voices. Nice to see she's doing a booming business. Simon said. It's hard to get steady profit work these days. Do you have to be sarcastic about everything? Clary snapped. Simon blinked, clearly taken aback. I thought you like it when I was witty and ironic. Clary was about to reply when the door to Madame, I almost said Madame, Madame Dorothy's swung fully open, and a man stepped out. He was tall, with maple syrup colored skin, gold green eyes like a cat's, and tangled black hair. He grinned at her blindingly, showing sharp white teeth. A wave of dizziness came over her, the strong sensation that she was going to faint. Simon glanced at her uneasily. Are you all right? You look like you're going to pass out. She blinked at him. What? No, I'm fine. He didn't seem to want to let it drop. You look like you just saw a ghost. She shook her head. The memory of having seen someone tease her, uh, the memory of having seen something tease her, but when she tried to concentrate, it slid away like water. Nothing. I thought I saw Dorothea's cat, but I guess it was just a trick of light. Simon stared at her. I haven't eaten anything since yesterday, she added defensively. I guess I'm a little out of it. He slid a comforting arm around her shoulder. Come on, I'll buy you something to eat. I just can't believe she's being like this, Clary said for the fourth time, chasing a stray bit of guacamole around her plate with the tip of a nacho. They were at a neighborhood Mexican joint, a hole in the wall called Nacho Mama. like uh like like grounding me every other week wasn't bad enough. Now I'm going to be exiled for the rest of the summer. Well, your mom gets like this sometimes. I just broke my nail. Gets like this sometimes. Simon said, like when she breathes in and out. When she breathes in or out. He grinned at her, at her around his veggie burrito. Oh, sure. Act like it's funny, she said. You're not the one getting dragged off to the middle of nowhere for God knows how long. Clary, Simon interrupted her tirade. Tirade, I'm not the one you're mad at. Besides, it isn't going to be permanent. How do you know that? Well, because I know your mom, Simon says, after he paused. I mean, you and I have been friends for what, 10 years now? I know she gets like this sometimes. She'll think better of it. And that's my timer. Um I guess I'll start a video to end the rest of the chapter, and then I'm gonna call it a night for this book.